Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
This is the digital asset investor, and today I want to focus in on this the Bitcoin ETF that's being looked at by the SEC. They're looking at a few of them, but one of the leaders in this whole process is the VanEck ETF. And this guy, this was the director of digital asset strategy at VanEck, Gabor Gabix. He was on CNBC Trader. And if you want to go watch this, just go to CNBC Crypto Trader is what it's called. Go to CNBC Crypto Trader on YouTube, and it starts at about 25 minutes. But I've made some notes about what he said that grabbed my attention in this, and that's what I wanted to go over with you. The first, and I want to go over this with you because yes, this is about approval of a Bitcoin ETF. But the reason I want to go over that with you is for several reasons. But the first is that once this door is opened, it's going to open up the floodgates to ETFs of all types. Whether there will be Bitcoin, then there will be ETFs that contain Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum. There will be the crypto 10, the top 10 cryptos by market cap. You can't even imagine all the different products they will come up, or different ETFs they will come up with. And so the second that they approve this thing, regardless of what how the market reacts to it, I think the market will go crazy. But regardless of whether it goes crazy on that particular day, or the day before the announcement, or the day after the announcement, or over the period of the year after the announcement, the point is that it opens the floodgates to billions and eventually trillions of dollars. And that is what's important. So I want to tell you what he said. First of all, he said, no, they just had their meeting with the SEC. I think it was November 5th, but that was just a meeting to get further information. Then what this guy said, he said that on December 29th is the next meeting. He said they could approve it on that day, or they could say they need more time and push it to the next deadline, which is in February. Don't quote me, but I believe he said February 8th. I missed the actual date, but it's in February. I know that for a fact. He said, but at that time, and this is key, he said that February the SEC has to give them a yes or a no. And so by February at the latest, you will get a yes or a no. Now, then he went on to talk a little bit more about the VanEck as well as the ETF. First of all, he said they're partnered with a company called SolidX. And he said that what they're trying to get approved by the SEC is a physical Bitcoin ETF that's fully insured. Okay, and when he says physical Bitcoin ETF, he means when you buy $50,000 of this ETF, that's going into physical Bitcoin, and that is huge. That is huge, huge. Then he went on to talk about VanEck. He said that VanEck has a 60+ year relationship with regulators, i.e. the SEC. And he said the regulators are very open to this ETF. He said VanEck has created ETFs with gold and various other types of investments or asset classes in history. They've been doing this a long time. He said that in the past, the SEC's primary concern has been market manipulation. And then one thing that was interesting that he brought up, he said, well, market manipulation, this article is about JP Morgan that came out this week about how their traders had been getting orders from the people that they work for at JP Morgan on how to manipulate the U.S. metals market. So he was making the point that market manipulation goes on in any asset class. It's a part of the regulators' jobs are to to try to make sure that doesn't happen. But he said that happens already in existing asset classes. That's kind of an irrelevant point, is what he was getting at. And then he went on and he said He said that digital assets are no more susceptible to market manipulation than other assets like gold or silver, and he used that example. And then a couple more things. He said he made the point that 90 to 95% of the digital asset space right now is in retail. In other words, it's what you and I do. We buy on VanEck, or we buy digital assets on Coinbase or Uphold. And he said these ETFs that they're trying to get approved, they will represent safety. He said it's not an option for us managing an ETF to lose your money. And so when these things are approved, he said it will solve a major problem in the minds of the investing public. Then they went on to talk. They were asking him. The guy was asking him how much he thought would come into this ETF, and he said that what he believes is that it will be probably a few $1 billion in just this one particular ETF. Now, and think about this. He's talking about a few $1 billion in one ETF with one company, and it's just an ETF in Bitcoin. If you want to conceptualize how huge this is, and this is just the first one through the door, the backdrop to that is that there's around $216 billion in all cryptocurrencies right now. And then they were talking about, he went on to say that once this happens, now think about this for a minute. He said, once this happens, Bitcoin is here to stay, and Bitcoin will be here for the next century. And he said it will be a multi-billion, this is the last thing I took from this. He said it will be a multi-billion-dollar asset class on the ETF side. Those were his words. In other words, just in the ETF space of investing, that cryptocurrencies will be a multi-billion-dollar asset class just in the ETF space. And I'll refer you back to what Morgan Stanley said this week. Morgan Stanley report says crypto now an institutional asset class. Well, if the ETF side of digital assets is going to be multi-billion, and then you've got mutual funds, you have futures, you have every kind of investment, you have just individual sales of digital assets. Just imagine. There, as I've told you many times before, when the party is finally over, this is going to be a $20 to $100 trillion business, and you and I were here first. So get ready. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that the digital asset investor said that ETFs are coming, whether the SEC likes it or not. You're not putting this genie back in the bottle. Thanks for listening.